No, I don't have any, extra participants, so just us.
I heard a motion second. All in favor?
All right,
Motion carried. We got the monthly operating report in January 2025.
so I'll go through this quick and then we can go over budget. I did make some yearly graphs that I typically do in January, so I included them for February this year. These are the historical data. If you have any questions when I go through it, let me know. A January average 2.8 million gallons, still had low flows. 97.2% removal efficiency DOD, 98.8 for TSS. Total nitrogen was 73 pounds under permit for removal efficiency of 88%. Phosphorus and E. coli will get started April 1st, so we don't have those currently. And average biosolids was 21.6%. So let me just spin this around. So I did do some of the yearly graphs, like I said. This was, you probably remember from last year, the historical nitrogen through the permit. So obviously our permit decreased through the years. It's been steady at 178 since about 2015. And I often said the plant is running really good, so I don't think we're gonna pull too much more out of the fermentation tank, but we're down another 8 pounds for the yearly average this year. And that was not using any chemical. So that was a good thing. The phosphorus as well. So the phosphorus. The permit is in green, your chemical costs are in orange, and then the total pounds. So the phosphorus is a rolling average, it's 70.1 pounds average a year. So we are averaging right around like 45 to 50. We can obviously go lower, but if you're under the permit, why spend the money on the chemical? So when we put the tank online, we were able to get more food for the biological phos. So this year we spent about $5,000 on chemical, which truth be told was cleaning the tanks out because the chemical was sitting there for 3 years, so we had to get rid of it. Can you hear us, Sarah? Can you hear us okay?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Sarah.
We just started the meeting and we went through the operating report. Everything is in very good shape. As Mark just going over some of the analysis here that he uses to determine the cost of the various chemicals.
So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Mark,
Thank you so much.
we were actually being paid by the state when we were, right?
We're still being paid, yeah.
Still being paid.
They, obviously, our credits for buying is higher than what they pay us if we sell, but we're still selling credits, so we were under 8 pounds more this year than we ever have been before, so it's 178, we averaged 134, so we were about 44 pounds under rolling average. And so the chemical cost, we basically didn't use any chemical this year, we had to empty the tanks to clean it, because they have about a 2-year shelf life. So realistically, after about 21 and 2, we haven't even used chemical. So I anticipate that to probably drop to 0, pending large flows. And then this last graph kind of looks confusing. The white line is your permit. All the other ones are your pounds of nitrogen through the past 4 years. So take away the first orange line is when we put the fermentation tank online, so we were kind of dialing it in. But if you see a pattern in the first, literally January to August, the lines are pretty close together. And then August to December, you kind of see them apart a little bit. That's all rain and flow related, right? So if you see the red line, which was this year, and you see it dip down October, November, December, we had no rain this fall. So that kind of helped us with the pounds. But when you see the tank working, you can kind of see how it's kind of about as efficient as I think we're going to get it without tweaking even more stuff. But we're under the permit, so it's doing really well. But if you graph a flow line with this, you see it correlate with the peaks in it, so.
What's the order of magnitude, I guess, about how much we do get paid by the state rep?
It's like 3,200 last year, 3,188.
Oh, that's the budget bracket.
Yeah.
Save us. Yeah.
But if we paid 40 pounds, we'd owe about $70,000.
Right, at one point, we were paid like $135.
Yeah.
We
Pay,
Yeah.
yeah, and now that we're saving.
Yeah.
I think it was 3,200.
And I actually have, I can bring it in here too, when we're done with this. From 2022 all the way to current, or 2002, all the way to current, what we did pay. So there was a couple of years we paid over 100, and even 2000, I believe it was 2017 and 18, we were still paying like $90,000-$70,000 up in that range. Because if you see these right here, 2018, we were literally 380 pounds, and the plant was on at this point, the new plant. And then we kind of tweaked it, got it down to about 250. And then finally, when we put the tank out, we were able to get consistently under the permit. But anything here that you see above this blue line was paying.
Yeah.
And I would say above 200 pounds, you're probably 30 to 50 grand. These up here, these are definitely 100K
Yeah,
payments.
that big one, I think we're, one of the years, it's like 135,000.
Yeah.
We Mark put the tank on, and we get $3,200.
So was this tank from this most recent design? Did you end up changing the process?
Yeah, so I had to email DEP just to kind of say, hey, this is what we're doing. Are you guys okay with it? Because their primary concern is if we had a high flow event or a storm and something happened because the tank was not stocked or per se,
Yeah.
they would be upset. Essentially, all we're doing is you have a primary tank where your solids settle, and you have your flights that push the solids and you pump it out, right? So we put mixers on the bottom to keep it in suspension, and then we recycle it with another pump to basically let it ferment. So we keep them in there for a longer time, so you get VFAs, it just makes more food. So there's months, and without boring y'all, I'll make a different chart next week, that our primary BOD is higher than the food coming into the plant than the influent. So if you looked at like 6 months of data, our influent BOD might be 250 and the primary might be 280. So we're able to kind of boost it up in that tank. And there's other things you have to watch because you don't want to overload your aeration tank with too much food, because then you can have a BOD violation, but you monitor everything. And it's been running really well.
I think when we were, turning over the new design, this was always tweaking this system with something that was discussed. It just wasn't the primary setup.
Yeah. Yeah, they wanted, I think it was with the balance, like the phosphorus removal and the nitrogen. So,
But this, Mark's idea of putting this tank on. Was after. Came online like 18,
we were, so when you see that first
right?
peak,
18, we finished the upgrade,
yeah,
and it was after that, we started talking about it.
yeah, we put it on right in 21. So basically, we took an existing primary tank, added a large submersible pump, and then 3 submersible mixers to it on VFDs. But it paid for itself literally in the first year.
Exactly. And so there's 4 primary tanks, now we have 3.
And what we told DEP too was, you're still technically using the 4th one, right? So it's not like the tank's just gone. So even hydraulically, you're still using it. So they've been completely, I mean, they see these numbers and they're fine with it.
And what's the shelf life again of the chemical part?
It depends on the chemical, so
Well, the nitrogen.
yeah, but for the PAC, which is polyaluminum chloride, we use that for phosphorus. It's basically a coagulant, so the phosphorus sticks to it and then you waste it out of the system. I'd say about 2 years. They'll tell you a year, but we run it for 2 years and we still get decent process with it. But it'll start to almost, the bottom of the tank will kind of turn into like a snow cone. Kind of crystallizes, so we hosed it out, rinsed it, and just bled it through the system. So about 2 years. And they'll still work, they'll just lose their like efficiency.
Okay, anything further on that?
So,
All right, then we got our engineer report.
so Dominique's court, the main line was installed, the contractors are connecting the laterals as the homes go up. Pump stations. We had a high wet well alarm, there's storms at night, plant electrician operators had recently installed a new float. Originally thought it was a switch, however, the CSI panel, had a blown fuse. We have spare, DC 101 and MC 101 panels, which are all the CSI boards that you need, so we were able to replace the fuse. And the board if we needed to, everything worked after that. And we're actually looking, those are some older panels, we're looking at replacing those in the future. January 14th and 15th, maintenance and operations changed generator oil as part of the preventive maintenance program. This was at Centerbrook, Corporate, Snowberry, and Tungus. Snowberry pump station, January 19th, we had a failure for pump 2. It was pulled, and as normal there, we got rags and debris out of it. The pump mounting flanges are slightly corroded. When you drop the pump down the rails, they seat on the flange and there's no ring. So because they're corroding, it's not sitting flush, so we're getting some blowback on it, so we're looking at getting a different mount for it and trying to replace them, whatever's gonna be easiest. Deadwood pump station, we installed a new heater. And quarterly stations inspections, this is something new we did, for the INC controls, same with batteries. The RTU units, batteries, which is remote telemetry unit, so anything for SCADA, we're just keeping up on the batteries and not waiting for them to fail. I mean, typically they last 5 or 6 years, but sometimes they can take out everything, so we started uploading that as well. Pump station upgrades and collection systems. We cleaned and waxed the back truck, we do it every year. Pull spells, get it done for the spring. Assistant highway cleaning and vacuuming the storm drains at the garage. Usually when they plow or they do leaves, everything gets in there, so we clean it out during the winter. We had a sewer backup at 47 Tungus Village. There was a private line, however, we sent the camera down to confirm it was not blocked. No blockage was found and it was passed on to management. January 21st, there was a call for sewer odors at 599 Farmington Avenue. We couldn't find any, and we again told building management and still could not find anything. We went back out.
Roughly.
Right over here by the junction. The first building on the right. When you cross over it.
Yeah, my wife got much more sensitive, you know, than last weekend, we drove through and she told me that she needs small.
Right, and that, like in that,
Yeah.
that corridor.
We get H2S up there, maybe.
Yeah,
That's where
yeah,
the issue is.
you weren't here, but I wonder if they popped the manholes on Route 4.
We can go out tomorrow too. and
Yeah,
check.
you can check.
Just to
That's
see.
where, like, turns from the first lane from Yukon, and it turns into gravity by the old farmhouse up the block.
Yeah.
Just before that, where Old South Road came up the hill at the 45, that's about where it goes, turns to gravity and comes down and crosses Route 4. Probably at, yeah. So you got the farmhouse, the next building that's not on Route 4. It's, whatever that is, South Road, Bird's Eye. Crosses there and by Cradle Pond. And that's where, remember years ago, we had the shutdown, we had the whole pipe rotted out. And that's where we placed that. That was 2008, I think, 2009. Yeah.
And then we epoxied from the jug handle all the way through the hillside,
Right.
because we were going out there and the first couple of years you could just peel like probably this thick right off the top of the manholes. Yeah, so we epoxied everything, so that should help, but yeah, it's coming up tomorrow.
Our Canadian water out there. 2 or 3 trucks.
So they're out flushing. There's a lot of complaints with the water being cloudy.
Yeah.
And talking with Connecticut Water, they think it was the Charles House pump cavitated a little bit with the low water that would happen when the drought. They think the pump cavitated a little bit and put air into the water. That's what's making it cloudy.
People complaining about the bubbles.
Yeah, exactly, they let it settle and it goes away, it's just there, but it's.
Yeah.
And
And I like the color of it, with the bubbles in it, yeah.
I mean, they called one individual who said there was chunks floating in it, and they called they called the person, like, the resident, and, they thought that, they're putting microorganisms into the water. He's not happy with that, yeah. So, we moved on.
Yeah.
They were up something again today, and they seem to have gotten it out. They shut down Charles House, and, they increased the water from NBC to make up the difference.
Probably most people don't realize that it is coming from wells.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it just comes, doesn't matter, it's on.
Yeah.
They do when we flush. it just
Yeah,
goes
flush
away.
water, yeah.
It disappears, it's never there, right? Yeah, so we'll check, we can go out tomorrow, we're
Oh, I
gonna check.
wouldn't bother.
Well, if you're smelling it,
Yeah, we can
we
go
just tell,
out.
we don't take long to check, I just wanna make sure, everything's good with the manhole.
Yeah.
Nothing's stuck up and stuff, or doing something funny, but not a problem.
Dog inspections, we performed the Stop and Shop, Rebel Dog, and Cafe Pesto. So again, just going through the list, probably hit them every 2 years. Continue to inspect right of ways. Obviously, it's slower in January, we can't really get out there, but we make notice of what ones we want to cut and mow. Repairs and maintenance at treatment plant. Drained all the rainwater from empty primaries. Basically in these temps, you don't want them to freeze, but then if you put a tank online, you basically gotta flood it with influent to get it to melt. So there's about a 4-hour period where you can't even turn the tank because it's frozen. Algae was removed from the weirs of the secondary tanks. This helps with TSS. While cleaning the UV channels, we noticed a drain valve to one of them was rotted and missing bolts. And again, this was like when we redid the final clarifiers, none of the bolts were stainless. So we replaced them all. I think actually Nickerson covered one of them too after that. They put in new lock washers and everything was stainless. Because if they're not, they only last a couple of years. January 7th, IT was having issues backing up information on the SCADA computer. We have to update it. I talked to Brian, probably this year we'll work on it. The Windows that we're using, I think is 10 years old on it, which was only 2 or 3 when the plant was started, so it's about time. January 8th and 9th, Kinsley serviced the plant generator along with running a load bank test on it. That's annual, just for the size of it and the importance. January 10th. The check valve in the 2 scum pits froze. Operators covered the pits and installed heat tape along with the heater in each pit. We've done this every year. Believe it or not, sometimes if the 120 heater trips, even if it's covered, they still freeze. Just it whips and it's freezing out there. You normally get it thawed out in a day or so. And we cleaned the plant after flushing water well, along with flushing lines of the plant. This just keeps all the filters and everything for the dewatering press clear. So we've done that about twice a year. We're under the nitrogen permit by about 74 pounds. So we were a total of 104. And that was about it. We just had new safety things. OSHA came back down. I had scheduled them when they came the first time in July. So we're basically working on some shop things, basically just PPE, hazmat. We have to basically identify all the areas PPE are required in plants, like it's a chainsaw, it's a grinder, it's that, and make an SOP for them. But they were pleased with what they saw. They were happy when they came for the confined space and lockout tag out. So we should be good. And Encore Fire Protection inspected the extinguishers. We have some at the big stations. They're gonna do a 6-year test on them, and I just put the quote through today for that. So, should be everything. Sanitary sewer report. There's a repair on Terry Road, Farmington Avenue, New Britain Avenue. Sewer connections were paid. Sewer connection paid on Dominique's Court, which we discussed. And Batterson Park Road, $204,000 paid on the 14th. And Paul Springs Road had a repair as well.
I have a question for you, Ralph. A lot of years that we were pretty dry as far as connection seams and stuff like that. So, I mean, this time, this report on, I mean, is it $400,000 worth of connection fees?
Yes.
Okay, and in the budget, I didn't see us
weren't sure when they were gonna pay,
Uh-huh.
so I didn't include it, because
Okay,
it's all timing.
yeah,
It's 402 Farmington Avenue, they should have, they got approved. I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago now, and then they had the lawsuit. 90 Newbritton Avenue, that's Metro, 90 Newbritton Avenue. They were waiting for all the funding to come in. Wasn't sure when it was gonna hit into the budget, so I didn't include it. So it's basically additional funding coming in.
yeah, I can take it, that. I mean, it's been many, many years since we've been,
Well, we hold steady, yeah, we get a few, and that's why we keep more conservative on those numbers in the budget.
Yeah.
But these are just these big apartment buildings that
Right.
are coming on, and
Yeah.
we weren't sure when it was actually gonna come, that's why
okay.
it's basically, we got extra birthday money.
Did we wanna do the reimbursement first, I put under new business? We can do that before budget, yeah.
Yeah, the new business, and one, got, review overcharge on sewer use bills, but we're gonna do first.
Yeah.
Okay, the Bradford Walk Association will consider reimbursement.
So what happened here is, they have an irrigation meter for their clubhouse that waters all their common areas. And when we did the sewer use fee, we sent them out, we forgot to subtract out the irrigation meter calculation. So it turned their $360 yearly use fee into $7,443 they paid it. And then came back, we actually did it, to be quite honest. We did it 4 out of the last 6 years and didn't catch it. And I review it and you're going through.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
To be quite honest, we've got, I don't know,
Yeah.
250 different commercial accounts. And the numbers, you're looking at everything and I missed it.
Yeah.
My engineer still put it in, he did it, and the spreadsheet itself is a large spreadsheet because we have all the years back to whenever we put in the Excel back in 98, maybe, something like that. So the last 3 out of those 6 years, Joe was able to reimburse them because of a statute. This, we only can go back 3 years. So this is the 4th year back, that's why we have an annual thing. As a FYI, it was about $24,000 total that we're gonna be getting back. And the only thing, this was the one that we have to do, quote unquote, as an agreement, and as an action of it.
Action.
Yeah, so that's what it was, it was truly.
Who finally picked it up?
Bradford.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, so I guess they got, somebody new came in. Like, hey, we got a problem, and my secretary, Nicole, comes in and she's like, very upset with the person. And they'll bring it to about the overdoing, and the sewer, I'm like, okay. Maybe so we go through it, I'm talking, like, we'll take care of it, it was purely an oversight, we just forgot the irrigation meter. And they send it in every year, and it's fine, we have, I don't know, maybe around 10 or 12, but there are people, these bigger commercial buildings have irrigation. Because for a while, we were billing them the full use on water that we were not treating on the water. And we can finally figure it out and caught up to it. So that's what happened.
And they all have their own separate $369 charge for their regular.
For the cutters, yeah, exactly. How big it charges a residential rate, yeah. And how this works is we divide the per cubic foot rate into the residential rate, you get the minimum commercial flow rate. So it's about 11,600 cubic feet. If the commercial property exceeds that, then they get charged the per cubic foot rate. If they're below that, they get charged a residential rate. So residential rate is a minimum charge. So that's how that all gets established.
So they run their sprinkler a lot.
Yeah, they use a lot of that.
What about the written side there, Russ? What happened there?
The Britain comes to us.
New Britain comes in. So then like, this is for the whole complex.
That's for the whole time.
Okay, so then,
When we-
not just the farming.
No.
This is for the New Britain side too.
Correct, so this covers all the common areas
Okay.
within that complex, Farmington and New Britain.
Yeah.
Some of the condos come to Farmington
Farmington.
and some go to New Britain. And we charge those, New Britain as well.
Do I hear a motion to accept the payment of the reimbursement for the Rapid Walk Association?
So moved.
Moved in second, any discussion? Hearing now, none, all in favor? Carried. This time we've got the review the budget expenditures and revenues for 2025, 2026.
We're gonna do revenue first.
Yeah.
This is our standard budget revenue sheet. With the different increases out. The first column is the year 24-25 is the year that we're currently in. On the left, you have the double columns. And what a percentage would be, so that is our projected in, at the bottom line, that's our projected. Big revenue that will bring in. For all the different fees. And obviously, as Jim pointed out, our estimated connection fees are way up. So we're gonna have that as extra income on top of that budget. What we project. And Joe told me that he's sending out the Avon bill this week. From the last. So that was the $905,000 payment. Last year.
Yeah.
So that'll be
Oh, it's setting up both,
the last quarter of that payment, so. What we did there,
So we're proposing then a 1% increase?
0%. We're gonna keep saying, we showed it, I showed it as a 1%. But what it would bring in for bottom line,
Mhm.
so when you look at our expenditure sheet, you'll see that we're basically matching the current fiscal year.
Any questions on that?
No, I don't have a problem with that based on what we took last year. I think it's good to have a year that's flat, but in 2026, I would probably look at how these have a 1% bump again. You know,
Yeah,
just.
well, I mean, the thing that we talked about a while back is that we're still banking money. I mean, I don't know what the current reserve fund is.
So we're about, the reserve fund is somewhere around $6 million. And I can I can bring all that.
But not long ago, we were happy with $1 million.
Yeah.
We're pretty happy with too,
Yeah, but you could be looking at projects on Middle Road and everything.
Well, that's the
else,
thing,
so,
right.
so,
You'll see down below, we get, move into the revenue. Expenditure.
Yeah, I went to the bottom just to show we're 5.495,
Yeah.
same as the 0%, so.
Yeah, we're right there, it's just $40 difference. With our expenditures, everything is basically flat. The only thing that has gone up is the salaries with the contract agreement. That the town manager negotiated with the union. Everything else is pretty much the same. We bumped up the electricity a little bit. Talked with Joe. This current year we're in is a big hit, is a big increase, and for next year we don't. We're assuming it's gonna be the same. We don't think it's gonna be that big, but we bumped that up a little bit. We bumped up the hauling a little bit of the sludge.
When did that go? Are you gonna go out for contract again, or?
It just went out, I just told Anne Marie to go with HI, so we're gonna go out to bid, but HI Stone to prefer, obviously, because the last time we went out, we got nobody else. I don't
I
think,
think there are two, HI's phone and somebody else, but it was like,
it was a 200K difference or
Right.
something.
and we're like. I can't, almost double,
Hmm,
but the ton rate hauling rate was. But it wasn't worth it. And just a note, I was coming by on Saturday, about 4 o'clock, and he said someone was coming into the hall.
Taking out, yeah.
I'm Saturday. So getting into what you're bringing up, that was the, our capital expenditure, for continuing the bank. Money for big capital expenditures, repair sewer lines, or anything that may come up for a collection system replacement, piping that is, and I have the pump station improvement. That's $650, we're maintaining that. We have 75 in for plant equipment replacement, that is for a banking account for anything that may go wrong. The pumps or aeration. Either any PLCs, anything that may come up that for the last more than $25,000 in not paid in 5 years. We have 25,000 for a vehicle replacement, that's a banking account, and basically all our capital is banking for the most part. And then the trunk lines that come through. We started setting up an account a few years ago. To set up money for any trunk line work or replacement. This kind of helps offset any kind of buying it. And that money's all in the bank, in case we need to do something. Those lines are now, where are we? 60 years old. And in a few years, I think it'd be a good opportunity to start planning to do trunk line replacement program. So if we do the sections, and could be a big bypass for every trunk line that we do. We have the river crossing at crossing the Pine Hall that in the Prospect Joyce construction. That crossing there in the trunk line. So we basically have, I call it 3 trunk lines. We've got Railroad Avenue down to Britton Avenue to that crossing. Route 4 down to the 2 combined in Route 4 coming into the headworks. And we have the trunk line from Stanley Works that comes, that holds everything else along the river through the Provic, down Garden Streets. And then the whole east end of the town is a pump situation where they pump all the way through our gravity line. And it's really the trunk line up here for Route 4 and that New Heights process. So that's what we started that for, looking forward to the future, start saving some money for that type of project.
Is there a situation where it's too much money?
Never too much
I
money.
mean,
I was gonna ask, is there an actual goal for that fund?
There,
How much is too much sometimes?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the state mandates to have a fund, but doesn't identify the size of it.
No, and the biggest thing is having this money in the bank, if something catastrophic were to happen, we're helping pay for that upfront. We have cash on hand. You know, we as a board could approve a transfer of funds should something catastrophic happen. And we're trying to plan for things and plan for projects. We're solid. Like, we're safe.
What happens to that money?
It stays in the bank and there's interest.
And we don't get the interest.
Yeah, no, it's all part of the.
Part of it,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what the reserve fund is basically for that, something catastrophic, and we're also planning the insurance project. And that's why we bumped up over the years, every years, way back when they were starting to get capital.
I don't think anybody would criticize this. I mean, it's getting to be a big number.
Yeah,
But in other words, we don't plan for something that it's so remote that it's probably not gonna happen.
well, here's a for instance, Raz, Alexa, he's my counterpart in Litchfield. They have a cover on their big tank, it's a 75-foot diameter cover. And it's for odor control. Something happened, they had a hot load come in. The hydrogen sulfide ignited and blew the cover off. 50 to 75-foot diameter cover, metal cover. He's looking at about $1.5 million just to get the thing. It's cockeyed now, so it's not functioning properly. The tank is, they gotta get the tank offline. And they don't have any idea how much this thing weighs.
Mm.
Because it's covered, it's sick, they can't get in and measure anything. So he goes, I have a contractor, coming from New York, he said, on the phone, they're probably about $1.5 million for me to come and bring my frame.
Right, right.
To try and place this thing and figure it out. That doesn't include any damage.
Mm.
And having to replace the cover like that. So. When he called me last week. And. To be honest with you.
Mm.
I don't think having $50 million in the bank is not a problem. And I thought they were there, but I just. The system we have, the 200 miles of piping. The trunk lines, the 17 pump stations, should something catastrophically happen. We're fortunate to be able to go, I don't need anybody, I don't need to, get a bond, I don't need to do that because we have the money in the bank for it. I think that's a very good position to be in.
Being held over the fire by NBC either.
Yeah, exactly, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, that's totally another issue.
I think we kind of have an idea of what, for our circumstance, what the number should be, because. You know.
You mean a cap,
Yeah,
so you wouldn't want to keep continuing,
Well-
so we do projects and it's, don't pay into it anymore, or?
no, in other words, maintain a figure, in other words, whatever the figure somebody calculates.
So that number, that's a percentage, and I can't remember it off the top of my head,
Yeah.
that comes from the auditors.
Mhm.
And basically they best management practices. And the town does the same thing, you got so much of a percentage.
Probably based on the expenditures.
Yeah, and I can't remember what that percentage is, but I'll get all that for March. It's not a problem, but I personally, not having money in the bank to take care of some problems if they come up is very reassuring. And also being able to save money and doing what we're doing to pay for these projects and cap. I think it's a very good methodology. I talked to Joe about it, he's talked to the auditor, and they all agree.
Hmm.
So, I don't see that, I don't think there's a downside to
Yeah.
it.
Now, I don't know when you do it, but we were gonna develop your project list with the cash flow kind of. How much money we're gonna need for the near future.
Yeah. Yep. We started talking about that, and then we had a little bit disruption in our personnel and
Mhm.
change things, but we're back. We've worked on our, pump station list and all our priorities, we got all that, we just gotta sit down and put the numbers to it. That's it, they don't take long at all.
Did we mention Yukon too, and or no?
So, before March month, we were talking about Yukon being that it's,
Almost 30, with equipment and there's almost 30.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think we did that in like 99, 2000. So it's 25 years old when we updated that pump station. But PLCs, all the electronics, things are getting outdated now,
Mhm.
and it's time. And being that pump station for what it does for the hospital.
Yeah.
It's a triplex pump system. We're gonna we're proposing to put in about $300,000 with upgrades. Pumps, electronics, all the computer, big upgrades. Just so that we're up to speed with today's technology. It's getting to the point where it's a lot outdated.
We've replaced the pumps, generators up to date, so all that is okay. But even I had, NIC systems, flow tech for VFDs out and PLCs. Was it Tuesday, I think?
Yeah.
I mean, even flow tech opened up the panel and was like, right, I mean, it's old.
Mm.
So I think you probably remember we had we had a lightning strike somewhere in that area, took out a relay, which shut down the whole station, and even our electrician had trouble finding out, we had to just get the pumps running, because everything's kind of been like pieced together there,
Mhm.
so it doesn't take much more than 30 minutes to get surcharged there. So because of the size of it, we're good at Stanley, we're good at Patrick Flood. That one is a little nerve wracking, so we'll get it up to date. The well is good, we might epoxy it. The pumps are new because we've been staying on top of them, generator good, building's good. So pretty much INC, maybe some check valves, VFD and PLCs.
And
Any questions on the expenditure side? pretty much straightforward. Like I said, the only pumps are the, little bump in the salary account, the electricity and the select line.
So, part of the public hearing, I'll get you for next meeting.
Yes, so much, yeah.
Motion to set that public hearing.
Yes.
We did, yeah, last year.
We have your motion to schedule a public hearing for the 2025-2026 WPF budget and assessments for March 12th, 2025. So move. Second discussion. And none in favor? Aye.
Yeah, I have to leave it in, get all that ready.
Any other business?
Good.
And none, we'll hear a motion to adjourn. Double. Second discussion. Favor? Aye. Thank you very much for coming out.